when you focus on what someone else has that you don't have, what you're doing is you're focusing on lack. You're focusing on what you don't have. What happens when you focus on lack? More lack tends to show up in your life. Hello everyone and welcome back. If you're new here, my name's Jillz and I help women step into their power, tap into their divine feminine, and up-level their lives. So if that's something you want to do, you should consider subscribing and sticking around. Now today I want to talk about the comparison trap and how comparison is killing us, especially as women. Now I think comparison has been around since the dawn of time, and it's something that we just all innately do to some extent as human beings, and I don't think that's really going to change, and I think that's okay. But since the invention of social media and just living in the modern world, comparison has skyrocketed and it's killing our self-confidence, it's killing our self-worth, and it's making us feel really low about ourselves, and it's burying us into the ground. So let's talk about comparison and how you can get out of this comparison trap. So you can't really talk about comparison unless you first talk about social media, because like I said, social media has kind of just made this whole comparison problem a much bigger problem, because now we are acutely aware of what everyone else is doing in their life. We didn't used to have this capability, but now we do. And social media is good for so many reasons, but it's also a little bit detrimental, or can be detrimental for many reasons as well. You know, we're seeing all these people traveling the world. We see that girl in Bora Bora, and we see that Instagram influencer buying that amazing new house, and we see that old girl from high school get engaged to whoever, and we just see all of these highlights in people's lives, because that's what Instagram is. It is a highlight reel. But so often we compare ourselves to this online presence of someone else. But that online presence is just a highlight reel, and you can't compare someone's highlight reel to someone else's or your own behind the scenes, down and dirty, realistic life. Instagram and social media is where people will announce and celebrate their achievements and their milestones, and that's kind of just like part of it. For example, I reached 100,000 subscribers on YouTube recently, which by the way, thank you, I appreciate it, but I posted about that on Instagram. I think that's my latest post as of now. Like, that's me celebrating a milestone. But people just see the 100,000 subscriber milestone, right? They're not seeing all of the work that went into it. They're not thinking about all of the work that went into it, all of those lower moments, all of those times where I was making videos and no one was watching. They're not thinking about the moments where I was creatively burnt out and I couldn't think about anything to talk about. When you're just looking at a highlight reel, you're only actually thinking about the highlights, but you're not thinking about those lower moments, those mundane moments that everyone has in their life. And everyone has those moments. Like, for example, also on Instagram, I've been sharing some of our home renovation that's been going on. We're renovating our upstairs bathrooms and we're basically finished now. I'm super happy with it. It looks beautiful. I'm so grateful that we got to do it. And if you follow me on Instagram, then you'll know that I've shared a few like pictures here and there of the bathroom coming together and looking beautiful. And people might see that on Instagram and be like, oh, she's lucky. She got to renovate her house. And obviously I totally am, but I'm also not showing the mundane, stressful moments that took place during that process. I might share a few, but you can't really understand those behind the scene moments of someone else's life. I didn't share about how there was a huge plumbing problem and our ceiling started leaking in the kitchen because of the renovation, and we had to cut out our entire kitchen ceiling and pay a bunch of extra money that we didn't budget for. I didn't share about how I was basically sleeping in the guest room alone for like a month and a half, and my husband was sleeping on the couch in the basement because we didn't really have like our bedroom to sleep in. Our guest room mattress is too small. I didn't really share about how our entire place was just like a dusty nightmare and smelled like chemicals for like a month, and how stuff was just everywhere. Now again, I am super grateful that I was able to do that and improve our house. Don't get me wrong. I'm so happy, so excited, and I would do it again. But all I'm trying to say is that there are always ups and downs, more boring and mundane moments throughout those highlights. And when we compare ourselves to others, especially through social media, we're not really thinking about those mundane or stressful moments in between. all we're thinking about is that highlight. But that is just not an accurate comparison. You have to remember that what you're seeing on the internet is only 1% of someone's story, and you will never fully be able to understand or comprehend someone else's story unless you live their life. So what I'm saying is that you have to be careful with social media, and you have to keep that in mind, and you have to be very cognizant of who you're following, what type of content you're following, and if it makes you feel good or if it makes you feel worse about yourself. You know, it's okay if you need to unfollow certain people on Instagram because at the moment it's not good for your mental health. There's nothing wrong with that. Now, eventually I think you should be able to get to a point where it doesn't really matter who you follow. You're not stuck in that comparison trap. You can't compare one person's highlight reel to another person's behind the scenes life. Now, the next point I want to make is that kind of like social media, you're really only seeing a little snippet of people's lives when you compare yourself to them. And what I mean by that is, let's say that you compare yourself to that girl who at 30, she has her own company and like a thriving business. Maybe that's something that you really want, and so you're jealous of that and you compare yourself to her, and then you feel bad about it. And what we do is we compare ourselves and are jealous of that highlight reel, of that milestone. But we don't think about that we also have to be jealous of all the things she did to get there. For example, yes, she may be this thriving entrepreneur now who has a great business and makes lots of money, but maybe her entire 20s, she worked hard. She grinded. Maybe her family didn't support her in that process. Maybe it was really tough on her emotionally. Maybe she had no time for dating. We don't really know. But the point is that we're only comparing ourselves and are jealous of that milestone. But we forget that there was so much before that happened that we're not thinking about. Like, you're jealous of where she is now, but are you jealous of everything she put in to get there? And when you compare yourself to someone else, you can't just compare yourself to one little snapshot in time. You have to be aware of everything that went into that process to get there. You can't just look at 1% of people's lives, and you can't just compare one tiny little page from someone's story to our own unique lives and our own unique stories and unique pasts filled with ups and downs and lots of things in between. You don't know everyone's full story. You won't know everyone's full story unless you actually lived it. You can't compare yourself by picking and choosing different attributes or achievements that other people have. You have to remember that there is so much more to it than that. What you're jealous of in other people can be a guide for you in what you secretly desire, but you have to remember that there is usually so much more that goes into what you see than you might realize. Now, the next tip that I want to share with you about comparison is a really powerful mindset shift, and this kind of changed the game for me. Okay, so whenever you see someone that you start comparing yourself to, oftentimes what we do is we start thinking really low about ourselves and start thinking about and focusing on all the things that we don't have that they do. But instead of seeing these people and start self-loathing, what you need to do is you need to start appreciating those qualities and those achievements and successes in other people. Because here's the thing, this is how the universe works, right? When you focus on what someone else has that you don't have, what you're doing is you're focusing on lack. You're focusing on what you don't have. What happens when you focus on lack? More lack tends to show up in your life. And also you're gonna feel like crap in the process. But when you switch your perspective and when you start seeing like, oh, that girl got engaged, wow, that's amazing for her. I'm so happy for her. She deserves it. You become more of a magnet for those things to come into your life. It's having this positive abundance mindset that will not only transform how you feel, but transform what you get in your life. When you see someone with something that you want, you need to see it in them, recognize it in them, and say, wow, she's beautiful. I love that for her. Or you notice that she's living her dream job and you're a little bit jealous of that. You want that. Instead of focusing on that lack and what you don't have right now in your life, you focus on the abundance. You force yourself to change your mindset and think, that's so wonderful that she has that. I'm so happy for her. And Lacey Phillips from To Be Magnetic, she has this term called expanders. And I love this term, expanders. So expanders are people who already have done what you want to do, or have already kind of become who you want to become, who have already achieved what you want to achieve. These are people who are not meant to make you feel bad about yourself. They are meant to inspire you. And not only that, but to show you that because they are capable of it, you are capable of it too. It's meant to prove to you that because she did it, you can do it too. It can be a part of your life too. So when you notice yourself starting to compare yourself to someone else because she has something that you don't have, let them be an expander for you. Let them inspire you, not make them feel bad about yourself. Let them lift you up. Let them create excitement for what you are going to have one day. Focus on creating that abundance mindset and realizing that just because she is winning, it doesn't mean that you can't win too. That is kind of the basis behind having an abundance mindset, is that there are no win-lose situations. When you start loving seeing people succeed, you're a million times more likely to succeed yourself. You need to start shifting your mindset to, wow, I love that for her. Wow, I'm so happy for her. She deserves that. This will change the way that you think and change the way that you view yourself. And also, if you ever feel yourself getting jealous or really comparing yourself to someone and the situation is appropriate, go and compliment them. When you see that girl with like amazing hair and you want that hair, go up and compliment her about it. When you see your old college roommate getting engaged or, having a baby or whatever, and it kind of makes you a little jealous, compliment her on it. Congratulate her on it. Put that good energy out into the universe, even if at first it doesn't feel that natural to you. Now, the next tip to get out of this comparison trap is that you have to start building up your own life and focusing on your own life. And especially with the whole invention of social media and everything, sometimes we can just get into these habits where we start scrolling and scrolling for hours on end, where we're just constantly viewing other people's life and analyzing other people's Instagram stories or whatnot. And at the end of the day, we're not actually living our own life. We're living in someone else's. If you find that you're comparing yourself to other people a lot, you might just need to focus more on your own life and building up your own life. Focus on bringing more hobbies into your life, learning new skills, nurturing your relationships, moving your body, being active in some kind of way, doing something with your time and something with your life. There's this old Latin saying that my husband really loves. It's memento mori, and it translates to something along the lines of like, remember you must die. And I know that that's like a little bit morbid, but it's also really beautiful. We only have so much time on this earth and so many days in our lives. Do you really want to be spending it on the couch scrolling on Instagram for 5 hours? When you're old and about to die, do you really want to look back and think, wow, I'm so glad that I knew exactly what that girl was doing in her life? You kind of have to keep things in perspective and remember that life is not forever. Sometimes one of the biggest reasons why we get stuck in this comparison trap is because we're just thinking about other people too much and not really focusing on ourselves, not building up our own lives. You are meant to make the most out of your life. You're meant to do the things that you care about and the things that you are passionate about. And remember that eventually one day you're going to die. You have to start living your life to the fullest and focus on yourself. And oftentimes the reason that we just get stuck in this comparison trap is because we're just thinking about other people too much and not prioritizing our own life as much as we should. And last but not least, you have to remember, and this is a little bit cheesy, I know, but it is very true. There's this saying that I've heard, you can't compare a rose to a tulip. They're both beautiful, they're both lovely, but they're just so different that you can't compare the two. This is how people work. This is how life works. We all have our own unique stories, our unique paths, our unique attributes, our unique strengths, our unique things that we're bad at, our unique highs and lows. And just because someone that you see that you're comparing yourself to has something that you want, it doesn't mean that it takes away value from what you are now. If you could actually hear a tulip's inner dialogue, if they have any, and they just said like, I'm not good enough because I don't look like a rose, you would be like, are you crazy? You are beautiful. Just because you're different, it doesn't mean that you are less special or that you are less valuable. As women, we tend to get stuck in this comparison trap, but you have to remember that what one person has, it doesn't take away from what you have. We can all win. We can all support each other. I hope you enjoyed this video. Leave your comments below. I would love to read them, share your thoughts. And if you haven't, you should subscribe, join the community. We would love for you to stick around. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you like it. Thank you so much for staying until the very end. I appreciate it, and I will see you next time. Bye.